Oh ragazzi, devo proprio dire che non mi mancava per niente questo gioco. Soprattutto dopo l'ultima volta si è concluso un po'... come tutti noi sappiamo. Ebbene buhaioli, benvenuti nell'11ª live di Ace Archney Sharkus. Senza indugio impostiamo subito a copertina. L'ho già preparata perché S è furbo. Non è vero. Ma senza indugio andiamo tutto immagini esportate a 11. Via, seguita, apri, salva. Buhaioli, continuiamo subito senza indugio. Mi ricordo più una sega. Passato troppo tempo, tipo quasi una settimana che non lo portonno. Ciao Ganzo. This case has nothing to do with Miss Mishta and Miss Gurridib. Believe me, Aladdin Bobby is good for his word. You see, sir, the windows on the top floor at the Gurridib house are top-heighted casements. Obviously, if anything had been thrown out of the window, we would have seen it. I did leave the scene to go and fetch help, but my trusty Raleigh was there to make sure nothing was disturbed. What happened was I dropped my bouquet and handed, losing my way for a while. I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment, sir. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir. Allora, bene. Che dire, è iniziata la live, ragazzi, e già sono bloccato come lo schifo. Perché accetta qui serpente maledetto, accetta qui serpente maledetto. Io mi sono praticamente già cioè sono già bloccato e non è bella incominciata la live per un carbo. Allora, proviamo tipo questo. No, perfetto, via, subito sì, a botta, si gode, ragazzi, si gode. Proviamo nothing to do with mystery. Ma nemmeno quello! Ma Dio buono! Io ragazzi non ce la fa più. No, è veramente una cosa allucinante. No! Ho sbagliato. Vabbè, via. Volevo fare i pre-pressing e invece nulla. Cioè, volevo dimostrare le cose e ovviamente fallire come un fallito. Ma ovviamente è andata male. Oh, vabbè, allora Dio buono. 2 commenti. Anche oggi si rage quit è una fittia. Se si rage quitta. Ciao Giulio comunque. Io Giulio, nothing to report. That's correct. My eye opened the third time. Never looked away from the sound. No one else appeared. Nothing was removed from it. Nothing was... Aspetta un attimo. No, ma l'ho già fatto. Aspetta un secondo, nulla è stato rimosso dalla scena. No, aspetta un attimo. Dio buono. No, aspetta. No, fermi tutti. Sì, grande Susi. Sì, stai zitta, donna. Fai quello che devi fare. Ovvero stare mi dissocio. Allora può essere il bouquet. Ma no, perché l'ho già usato i bouquet. Non ha senso. Comunque 2 secondi fa la live si è bloccata e poi è diventata un po' pixel. Ma ora va bene. Yeah! Proviamo. Una scimmia sta diventando razzi. No! 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 Oh! Oh! Non ci credo! Non ci credo! Era davvero il buè! No! No! Oh, ce l'ho fatta! Era il buè! Io non ci voglio credere! No! You claimed, Constable Beat, mi ricordo me l'avevo detto. There was nothing to report in the 15 or so minutes you were guarding the scene, but that cannot be. What do you mean to say? Ragazzi, la live comincia in modo fantastico. Your testimony just now, Miss Beat, in your testimony just now, Miss Beat, you explained to the court that when you arrived back to the scene of the crime with the policeman assigned to that beat, the bouquet you had dropped at the victim's side was no longer anywhere nearby.
Objection!
Eccolo. Yeah, on the opposite side of Briar Road where the victim was attacked. But considering the size of a merry bouquet, if a single sorry bloom can be so described, no doubt it was blown in the wind across the street, back into the gutter where it belongs. Meager? But if that were the case, not testified to the fact. No one else approached the scene, and nothing was removed from it. Constable Beats word to the Scotland Yard's honor. But bouquet belonged to me. It has nothing to do with the case. That's why Raleigh didn't mention it, I'm sure. No, because sadly it's not only your bouquet you're talking about here. More than one thing in this case is Mr. the wrong way round. Più o meno. What are you talking about? Think about it. Besides Miss Bates' bouquet, there's Mr. Gary Deeb's book. Mr. Gary Deeb's copy of The Lion Pride, which was thrown out of the window by his wife, would have struck on the pane of the casement window landed here, on the west side of the street, and yet it was actually found there on the opposite side of the road, in the victim's hand. Meanwhile, according to the testimony we've heard, Miss Beat's bouquet should have been dropped here at the scene of the crime, on the east side of the street. But in fact, it was actually found here on the opposite side of the road, in front of Mr. and Miss Gary Deeb's house. There's no logical explanation for those things, unless somebody deliberately moves them! Signore e signori, what are you trying to say? Yeah, the way you're talking, it sounds like you think of my Raleigh's done something wrong. Don't you listen to a word that scrawny lawyer says. What do I know about the books and bouquet? Why should we care? It's nitpicking, that's what it was. Ah, good. Miss Gary Deeb's came around. You might call it nitpicking, Miss Garridib. But deliberately meddling with the scene of a crime is criminal offense. It's called, tampering, Mr. Naruhodo. But the person responsible for this tampering cannot admit to it. For a very subtle but compelling reason. Fra. Objection. Grande. Tampering? You've apparently heard the term before. Tell us, my learned friend, who would possibly have caused her to carry such an elaborate deception? Yes, there is someone who tampered the scene of the crime that evening. All evidence and testimony points to only one particular person. Counsel, I must demand you that to substantiate this conjecture. Who are you saying is responsible for tampering with the scene of the crime? Allora, io sono 8 su 8 sicuro che ovviamente sia Rolly Beat. Non capisco il motivo, ma è l'unica persona perché vabbè, lui potrebbe aver senso ma non ha senso perché, cioè, ci sono Joan e John, ci sono i Jojo che stavano litigando, poi c'è Sherlock Holmes e vabbè, fra. Lei non ha senso perché è andata a chiamare aiuto, quindi Take that! Obviously there's only one person it could have been. Constable Rollybeat, it was you! What? A policeman? A member of Scotland Yard? What? No sense. Why would my Rolly do something like that? There's no sailor in my husband. No Bobby works like mother tirelessly for the people of London. Miss Bit, you said in your testimony that your husband asked you to go to an nearby police box to fetch the officer on duty. The 15 minutes that you were absent from the scene is the only opportunity anyone had to tamper with it. You're making it up. That's all nonsense. It's all lies. What about that Japanese man with the whiskers? I bet it was him. He did it. If that was true, Constable Beat would have seen him to do it. Oh. And forgive me pointing it out, but when you dropped your bouquet, Miss Beat, it was after the defendant had fled the scene. Ah, well. Cos'era? Oddio, quel A era orribile. First you make accusation about landlord and his wife. Now you incriminate a policeman as well. But your accusation lack one very important thing. You claim the crime scene was tampered with. But there was only one reason anyone would commit such a reckless crime. To hide something. That's right, he's right. But my husband, I just happened to be there. That's all. So why would we have anything to hide? It doesn't make sense. You've offered no motive for this alleged tampering. And until you do, your accusations are nothing but empty threats. Constable Beat had a very good reason for wanting to tamper with the scene of the crime. That's the key to this entire affair. Mr. Naruhodo, have you managed to solve this mystery? Counsel, you have made a serious accusation against a London police officer. If you are mistaken, I'm sure I need to point out that your reputation as a lawyer will be irrevocably damaged. With that stark warning in mind, you will now explain to the court the motive for this alleged tampering. Yes, my lord. Cha-cha! Puntini. Constable Beat's motive for tampering with the crime scene was to hide La prima. Palesemente questa. È palesemente la prima. Where the book fell to the ground. That's where he had to cover up all costs. And why exactly? Well, of course, the reason is, Do you have something to hide, my learned friend? For it seems you're unwilling to share the reason with the court. Or it could be, perhaps, that no reason exists? Ah, non era il corpo, perfetto, top, via, sium. Sì, fra, No, 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 no.
Guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty. Guilty. Guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty.
Via. Ah, Pog. Sium. Sì. Yahoo. Vai. Sium. Ciuf ciuf. Ciuf ciuf e padella. Counsel, you have made a serious accusation. Non so perché, ma il libro me la... Allora è Where the victim fell. Where the victim fell to the ground. This is what Bobby had to cover up all the costs. What? Where the victim fell? You mean where she was attacked? What are you talking about? We told you that at the very start, didn't we? On the pavement of Briar Road, we saw it happen, remember? It was right there, right here, as if anyone didn't already know. Ha, that's certainly what everybody has been led to believe. But in fact, this isn't where the victim was stabbed at all. What? What? Pazza grulla asciuga, che carbo fai? I'm beginning to wonder where this tumultuous trial will end, Counselor. If that assertion, then the court is dying to know, my Nipponese friend. Where are you proposing that the crime actually took place that evening? But what? But that's on the opposite side of the road. I don't understand. On the evening in question, Mr. Gardy's book fell directly down from the open window above, and Bouquet, Miss Pete, never moved at all. What did move was the scene of the crime itself. Good gracious. È una sega, raga. Che Naruto, ma sei un fenomeno. Perhaps you haven't been listening to the ample testimony the court has heard. But these witnesses both saw the moment the attack took place. That's right, I saw it with my own eyes. It was 5 o'clock in the evening and already dark. There was the typical London fog on the ground. When you saw the incident unfold and ran to the victim's aid, that was actually the west side of Briar Road. No, that's not true. It can't have been. Constable Bates then arranged for you to be absent for a while by sending you for help. And during the 15 minutes you were away, he transplanated the crime scene. He moved all the things shown in this print. The victim herself, in the 4 books. He moved, in fact, to the pavement on the east side of Briar Road. Extraordinary. But the constable overlooked one thing. What? What did he overlook? The bouquet, I presume. Exactly. The prosecution told to the court that just a few minutes ago about the discovery of the rose bouquet. Lord Van Zyck said it wasn't noticed until the morning, as it lay where the street lamps cast no light. No light. Cazzo c'entra? Yes, it couldn't be seen in the dark, obviously. Which is why it was only the bouquet that was found in its original position on the pavement on the west side of Briar Road. And that is the defense theory about what really happened that evening. How do you respond, Constable Rolly Beat? Adesso Razzi me lo immagino e fa tipo un cambio totale di faccia, di espressioni. No. Well, I'm very sorry. I didn't mean not to run off again. But I haven't slept properly in a month. Did I miss anything important? Oh, Raleigh? It isn't true, is it? What the lawyer said is all right, isn't it? I know it is, because you're the most upstanding, righteous man I know. Ganza. Grande. I had a dream, a terrible dream. All the things is a night. Everything comes, everything exposed. Signori e signori. Aspetta ragazzi, che c'ho le cuffie intrecciate con il ok. It wasn't such a matter. Good golly. Ai. Order. What on earth is Dominica Fortis? Oh, really? Why? Why would you do something like this? Momica corpses is criminal offense, isn't it? Oh, wishing the victim dead should be one too. Constable, explain yourself. Why would you do this? As a respected member of Scotland Yard, your duty is to protect the good people of London town. I can say so. What? I really am sorry for all this. For damaging the yard's reputation, for everything. I have a possible explanation. For why on that particular evening, Constable Beat felt compelled to move into the scene of the crime. I can think of one reason. What? How could you possibly know? You are a foreigner, presuming to understand the mind of a Scotland Yard policeman? Policeman, vabbè, ho rigirato la frase ma il senso è quello, ragazzi. And yet, Lord Van Zyck, it is a foreigner who has uncovered the startling truth of the matter thus far. I believe it would be beneficial to the court to hear this extraordinary young lawyer's theory. Counsel for the defense, if you please. Yes, my lord. Now then, I think you had better show us some evidence. At once, my lord. England, Japan, it makes no difference where you come from. Human emotions are the same. And I think I have a fairly good idea of the feelings behind this man's actions. What gives the motive for Constable Beat's unthinkable actions? Allora, io credo sia proprio questo regolamento, se no non avrei idea, perché la mappa, vabbè, Carbo c'entra. Questo no, questo no. Vabbè, il caso, vabbè, Carbo c'entra il caso. No feeling about the back, in the back, experience unconscious. Ok, a parts in one single stop. Può essere questo? Oh, ci ho azzeccato davvero. Forse. I realize that I am a foreigner in this land, and I have only just arrived from Japan, which is why all this information about London's so-called bobbies is completely new to me. I've learned that through honorable patrolling, the beat is the most demanding work in the world, for example. Keeping the peace, looking after the citizens, is on his beats in all kind of ways. There's no doubt that the young Bobby is charged with a great deal to do each day, certainly. But for Constable Beat, the day in question was special. Special? How? On account of this bouquet, my lord. Oh, yes. It was our first very wedding anniversary. Constable Beat had worked so hard to be able to afford this simple gift for his wife, and was looking forward to taking her out for a celebratory meal, when he and Miss Bates stumbled upon a crime along Briar Road. Oh, via, ragazzi, non ci credo nemmeno io. Ci siamo. Siamo arrivati in fondo ai tunnel. Quante? 27 minuti. Io comunque, ragazzi, questa live la fa finire con la fine del processo. Poi, se speriamo allunghino la spirata, almeno si va avanti un po', no? When he saw that shadowy figure through the fog, through the fog collapse on the pavement ahead of them, what must have gone through this man's mind? But sir, just on the day I was looking forward to celebrating my wedding anniversary. Miss Pete puts up the berry Bobby. Sì, però roba si è già detto comunque. This is the warrant. This is the warrant card that Constable Beat offered to lend me earlier. Inside, among the rules, the rules for patrolling policemen, it says, when a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigation and help detectives. Ha ha! Constable Beat. Is that not the reason why you moved the whole scene of the crime that day? Yes. Everything you say is alright. Questo ero io, non era Rolly. So, that's it. It was all to do with the boundary of your beat. Oh. Exactly. To summarize, the incident actually occurred on Constable Beat's beat. Good gracious! gracious! Constable! Do you realize the gravity of what you have done? It was the first time since I became a copper that I've ever cursed God. Stay close to me, Pat! The criminal could still be lurking somewhere! As we ran over the scene, I had every intention of doing my duties as police officer. We've got to report this to the station as quickly as possible. But then, it dawned on me. I realized where we were, where the victim was lying, and what it meant for me. When a crime is discovered in its bits, a policeman must assist with the initial investigation and help with the access. Why here? Why did this have to happen here? And why tonight of all nights? Why? Sì, però rimane ancora chi ha ucciso, cioè chi ha pugnalato la donna. It took a bird up to the crimes, so I told the patches have to go to the nearest police box and fetch whoever was on duty there. It was there when I opened my mouth to speak. It just came out. I couldn't believe the words that were coming out of my own mouth. This is next time. This is the next bit of mine, Pat. So you'll have to go to the police box, and that covers it. Turn right along Meerschaum Street, and then. Oh, fra? Ok, ci siamo, ragazzi. Razzi rinoso che è troppo forte. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh, Constable. I just wanted one night to take my Patricia out for dinner. Oh, Raleigh. Just that one night. You knew that if the incident was on your beat, your evening of celebration would be ruined. So you decided to move the entire crime scene outside your jurisdiction. Just across the street, to the east pavement of Briar Road, which falls under the neighboring Beats care. You see, I thought, well, I was sure that the victim was Daddy. You see, no, you see, I beg your pardon? Oh, of course it did. Otherwise, my Raleigh would never have left the poor woman on the freezing cold pavement. Ah, I see your meaning now. But God got me back for my science, didn't he? That's why I missed the rose I bought for Pat. Oh no, Raleigh, that was all my fault. I should never have dropped it in such a dark place. I'm so sorry, Raleigh. And can you tell us, Constable, how many books did you move from the one side to the porca puttana? And how many books you move from the one side of the road to the other in total? Oh, 4 it was. Yeah, sir, definitely 4. The 3 of them dropped by Mr. Matsumi and the 4th. Being the one that fell from the window upstairs in the Gary Deep household, of course. But what made you place the book in the victim's hand? When all the others were scattered haphazardly around, I mean. Oh well, sir, that's because that's how I found it. Dio bonino. Allora, quindi questo cambia le cose. Di nuovo. How you found it? What do you mean? When we first ran over to the scene, the victim was already holding the book. So, when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand. You're sure that his book, The Lion's Bride, that the victim was holding? Oh yeah, sir. The update about it, sir. Interesting. The first book information has been updated to the court record. I thought it was an open shut case at the time, you see. There were only 2 people at the scene, and Pat and me, so it had happened. However, which the way you look at it, it had been to be the fellow ran over who'd done it, I thought. I couldn't see the harm, really. I didn't think moving it all over the road would make a jot of difference. I suppose this is time for me. I've had it. Povero Roli. My lord. Yes, Lord Van Six. I believe that concludes the cross-examination. That concludes the cross-examinations of the witnesses. Constable, you may withdraw. Yes, sir! Persecutor, sir. What will become of my Rolly? What will happen to him? For now, you're free to go home. The police will contact you in due course. Please don't punish my husband. This was all my fault. It's because I'm always mourning at him for coming home late. Leave it now, Pat. Let's go home. I'm tired. All right then, my love. Bellino il personaggio, bellini sti 2 testimoni. Cioè, con poco te li caratterizzano in modo quasi perfetto. One last thing, Constable. Sir? Let this be a lesson for you. However insignificant it may seem to you. Yes, sir. Carve the lesson in your mind. And never again make the mistake of tampering with the scene of a crime. Never again, sir? You mean to say? Leave? No. This trial is not yet over. Sir! GG. Well, quite a startling revelation, I must say. Whoever thought of a third party transplanting the entire scene of a crime like that? Indeed, my lord. Nevertheless, there are some immutable facts here. Principally, that the accused, Mr. Sasaki Natsume, is the only person who could possibly have committed this crime. No, I disagree. Now that we know the true scene of the incident, there is someone else. Another person who could be responsible for the knife in the victim's back. Forgive me for being so presumptuous, but I believe that the prosecution is probably well aware of this possibility already. Lord Vortex, is this true? Very well. Name the person if you will. And its further investigation is warranted. The prosecution has no objection to the trial continuing. You will name this other person who could have perpetrated the crime. Allora, vabbè, ormai loro due si sono tolti dalle spelotasi. Adesso l'altra persona, credo l'unica, potrebbe essere, ma chi se non... The defense would once again like to request the cross-examination of a new witness, my lord. Once again? Ancora, Dio buono. My assistant made the same request earlier. In order to finally reveal the truth about this case, it's imperative that we cross-examine the juror number 4, Miss Joan Garadib. Me? Oh dear me. Allora via, ha detto non... L'avvocato procuratore non ha obiezioni stavolta, lì. That request has already been denied. But the situation is very different now. Miss Garadib, answer me this. What do you want to know, you little toad? At the time of the incident, you were engaged in a violent argument with your husband, Mr. John Garadib. In the course of the argument, a minor house fire was ignited, and to clear the smoke from the room, your husband opened a window that looks out over Briar Road. Well, what of it? You threw this book at your husband. He was concerned with his back against the window. Upon striking the pane of the open-up behind casement window, the book plumped directly down, finding its way to what we now know to be the true scene of the incident. Yes, and I said, what of it? What of it? During the argument, you were beside yourself with rage. As such, you threw just no books, but anything you could lay your hands on. So, let me ask you one more time, Miss Garadib. This knife, the only removed from one victim's back. Che succede? S, hai sentito la notizia della Illumination? Farà un film su Super Mario? No, ma questa è una notizia stupenda. C'è la Illumination? Quindi, no, che figo. Che poi no, la Illumination non è quella fatta cattivissimo me, i Minions e tutto. Cioè loro le animazioni le fanno stupende. Bellissima sta cosa che faranno un film su Super Mario. Ganzissimo, no? Bello, 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 bello. Mi garba, mi garba. Mi garba, si gode, si gode, si gode. Anzi 99 su 100, anzi 120 su 100 lo vo' vedere qui film. Sì. Yeah, figata. This knife, the one removed from the victim's back. Have you really never laid eyes on it before?
I don't recall it.
Ma porca troia, vaffanculo. Ma seriamente?
Am I supposed to remember everything I picked up and threw at my husband? And anyway, the man over there, in all their regalia, said members of the jury needed to testify, didn't he?
Conventionally, yes.
Objection!
E a quanto pare Mario sarà doppiato da Chris Pratt. Oddio, ma è già uscito un trailer di sta roba? Perché se no cioè faccio un attimo una pausa e... Anzi guarda, guardo subito. Non credo che sia uscito un trailer, però... Ta ta ta. Ah no, ok, è solo uscito la notizia del cast, eccetera. Ah, Miyamoto announces movie with Chris Pratt. Oh, ma che figata! Cioè, quindi in sostanza Star-Lord l'hanno annunciato ieri nella Nintendo Direct di ieri. Cioè, quindi in sostanza Star-Lord fa da doppiatore a Super Mario. Che figo. No, vabbè, bellissimo, bellissimo, bellissimo. Adoro un sacco. No, Giulio, mi hai messo hype, anche se non so niente di sto film, non so la trama, anche se credo sia pressoché scontata, però vabbè. No, I have no recollection of saying that at all, juror number 4.
Oh,
Make no mistake, you jurors are not special in any way. You're not immune to the judicial process. You know something about this knife, madam? Let the truth come out.
but just a common unguarded knife. It could have come from anywhere. We have several like that at home. If one went missing, how would you expect me to know?
What's that?
Are you joking? What are you trying to say, please, Miss Garrett-Dip? Now listen to me. I refuse to believe all of this nonsense.
Jack Black. No! Bellissimo! Jack Black è perfetto per Bowser. No! Ma aspetta. Sì, però cazzo, il cast inglese non va bene. Il cast italiano, boh, io vorrei un botto di voci belle, belline. Ora, io non so chi potrebbe essere adatto per chi potrebbe essere adatta la voce di Super Mario. Sinceramente non ne ho la più pallida idea. In giapponese è tutto, cioè tanto uscirà di sicuro anche in Giappone, no? E te, Giulio, sai chi spero non venga doppiato in giapponese Super Mario. Non sto parlando di quel doppiatore. No. No.
I couldn't bear it. Ah no. I couldn't bear the thoughts that I'd injured someone. Do you hear? I couldn't bear it.
Oh, the poor woman.
So yes, I want evidence. I want to see how there are evidence. If you're going to insist on this being my fault, you're going to have to prove to me that I threw was the knife. That's what you think. Come along now, chop chop.
Do your worst. Well. Ma palesemente sarà Yoshi. No, Matsuha. No, Matsuha, no. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, If I have evidence like that, believe me, I would have thrown it at her already. Then take the stand, juror. Oh! The prosecution does not object to the defense request to cross-examine this woman. Thank you, Lord Van Zix. Sega grande Lord Van Zix.
I'm going to have to testify.
Juror number 4. I'm sure you will appreciate having observed it with your own eyes today. Witness testimony can be led to the most extraordinary truths being unhearted. Yeah. Truths of which the witnesses themselves might not have even been aware.
Oh, dearie me.
So I demand your full testimony, Miss Garridip. And mark my words. In this court of law today, we shall exact the truth. Do you concur, counsels? Certainly, my lord. Oh, yes. That was what I was happening for, my lord.
Via, si gode.
Sono le 3:30. This is such a strange feeling. For the first time since arriving in this country, it actually feels real.
Che bello.
I'm here in the Old Bailey, and I'm a lawyer.
Vai, to be continued. Ah no.
No. Witness, state your name and occupation.
Oh, yes. My name is Johan Garridip. And I'm, well, a juror and such like.
It sounds even she doesn't know if she's a wife or a maid or what anymore.
The court has decided your testimony
is required in order to clarify the manners in this case. Do you understand, madame?
Yes, my lord.
You will tell the court everything that took place in your household on the evening in question. And I warn you, do not attempt to hide the truth.
Oh, how dearie me.
Chin it up, Johnny. Nothing to worry about now.
Ma dai c'è? Oh, I didn't know you were here, John.
Wasn't only you in the room that day, old thing, was it? Rather a thing.
Allora, vediamo un po'. Che voce potrei farlo, mezzaluna? C'è tipo la voce da.
Rather a thing.
No.
Rather think I ought to testify as far, don't you?
But. What about your knee, dear?
Don't you worry about that. Hardly notice it. I'm not sort of chap to leave a comrade to face disciplinary or long action alone.
Oh, John.
I presume you're Mr. John Garridip?
Cioè in Inghilterra la gente va lì tranquilla, si mette lì in mezzo a testimoni come se nulla fosse. Bella roba.
Yes, sir. Former second lieutenant of the 3rd Regiment of the 4th Northumberland Fusiliers, sir. Seen my fair share of action and now living the quiet life, as it were. The quiet life where you're not engaged in an incendiary battle with your spouse on the day in question. Oh, well, yeah, quite.
I believe this may represent the first proud history of the British court. Calling a juror to the witness stand is unprecedented. However, the court will hear your testimony now, juror number 4, and that of your husband. You will recount clearly and concisely the events in your home at the time of the incident in question. Sir, at once.
Mi sono bella dimenticato il voce a lui, perfetto. Ta 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 ta. Ta 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 ta.
Yes, on the day you're referring to, the wife and I did have a bit of skirmish. Can't recall the reason now. Knocked a candlestick over and set fire to the carpet. Soon had it out too, and got the window open.
Meanwhile, I was picking whatever I could find to throw at him. Ma c'è qualcosa che non mi va in questi due.
Plenty of knives around our place. Can't say I'd notice if 1 or 2 went missing, I'm afraid. If that belly thing in the victim's back really was one of ours, you will have a job proving it, I think. It sounds as though it was quite in the battlefield in your household that evening. Although an entirely one side did assault, it seems. The enemy cuts up on the hopser. Had no choice about to dig and take the defensive measures. To be honest, the enemy had kept shelling us for another minute. We'd have been toast. Of course, a word from such as myself is to a word that on battlefield you're just nuts. Whisker from death at any moment.
Are we still talking about marital quarrel here?
Well, I must say I'm dubious that this testimony will shed any light on the origins of this jackknife. In combat, one's focus narrows such that surroundings are barely noticed. These witnesses may not be able to offer anything more than they have testified already. This may be a dead end. Van Dix may be right.
Well, whatever the chances, we only have to have this last cross-examination to uncover the truth, Mr. Naruhodo.
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
Che caldo.
Very well, counsel. Begin your cross-examination.
Via cross-examination. Yes, on the day you're referring to, the wife and I have the bit smirkish and recall the reason now. Un attimo! The reason is what you told us yesterday, I believe. Yes, that's right. I remember correctly. It all started because of a note that was tucked into the pages of a book belonging to Mr. Garridip. A rather passionate note, in fact. But Mr. Garridip found the note discovering her husband's little secret. And she gave him a mighty number of slaps across the face for it too.
What a sordid state of affairs. Hell on earth. I say, when a chap says he can't recall such things, it's common decency not to drag it all up.
And besides, half of it was wide of the mark anyway.
Ora lo sa versare bene il caffè. Oh, look. Story.
These waters run very, very deep.
And what transpires next after those multiple blows to
the face? Knocked a candlestick over and set fire to the carpet. Soon had it out though and got the window open. Hold it! And the fire also spread to some items of furniture. Didn't it?
The bookcase in my armchair. I think of mine, really. So, just so happened that there was some bad water around that evening. So I sloshed. About to put it on.
A most precarious situation you put yourself in.
Ours, a 3-story townhouse on the west side of the street, where the water's main isn't connected yet.
Have to draw water from a public water pump during the day if you need any, you see.
The lodgers are always moaning that they can't get any water at night. Although the little mustached Japanese man buys water in bottles, I believe.
The defendant, Mr. Natsume, you mean?
Yeah, he receives stipended for his studies, you know, from his home country. Can you imagine being able to brew a pot of tea at all hours? He's obviously very well off.
Have you actually seen the state of the man?
I believe he uses all of his income to buy books.
Well, anyway, the point is, I was able to douse the fire with water, fortunately enough.
Okay. Meanwhile, I was picking up whatever I could find in throw him. Un attimo.
Even though the room was on fire?
As far as I was concerned at the time.
Cioè ieri,
cioè 2 giorni fa.
He was extinguishing my anger that in the flames.
When a woman wants to throw, she must throw. Vabbè, ho sbagliato un po' la voce però sti harbi.
That is the most certainly not true of a Susato takedown, Mr. Naruhodo.
How did she know I was thinking that? So, please cast your mind back and try to remember. What a knife among the items that you threw at your husband today was an
You know, honestly, I don't recall. But I feel I must point out that I'm no monster. Let me see. Some bread, a cabbage, garlic, a towel, and a sponge, a napkin.
Excuse me. Do you have something to add, sir? Mr. Carrotip! Don't shoot! Sorry, I beg your pardon? Did your wife just remark just now bring something to mind? Nothing of any significance, no. Just that barrage of projectiles, the whole thing launched in my direction. And somewhat more solid implies books, bricks, and the fire pocket. Seem to recall.
Ma seriamente nella pipa?
Good grief, woman! We're not at home now. This is a court of law. Vabbè.
And the woman's aim was uncanny. She landed at directed with every badly. God grief, woman, we're not at home now. This is a could have flow.
Oh, dear me. Ever so sorry, dear.
What's she even doing with a teapot in here?
Honestly, John, I would never have thrown such things at you, obviously.
Well, take a look at this, then. How do you suppose that happened,
Your pipe, sir?
I had this thing in my hand as usual the time of the onslaught. Had this thing in my mind as usual at the time of the onslaught. Knocked it to clean out with one of the soft projectiles she did, yes. And when it went to pick the thing up, it was broken in two. I'd like to see a sponge that to do that sort of damage. I see, your pipe was broken. I would never have been sent flying unless it was a bit by something pretty solid. Anyway, I've managed to bandage the thing up for now.
You are one to exaggerate, aren't you, dear?
I wonder what we make of this account. The defendants believes Mr. Gary Deep's remarks.
Oh, Yarati, già mi sento distrutto.
Just now to be one of the of great significance. These were veterans' words only tell us one thing. Betray a fiery wife and pipes, as well as hearts, may be broken. Sentimental wisdom, perhaps, but hardly worthy for heading the formal testimony.
Indeed, common sense, one might say.
Might one? In that case, will you at least permit us to examine the pipe, sir?
Well, I don't see why not.
Oh, dear me, there you go again, trying to ingratiate yourself with a young lady.
Lol. Very well. The court will accept the gentleman's pipe as evidence.
Ole. I hope he didn't speak out of turn, Mr. Naruhodo. I was just feeling rather disappointed for you that your request was turned down.
Ma ora senza indugi andiamo a esaminare la pipa. Ah, vedi un po'. Intanto esaminiamo questo e vabbè, si vede.
It looks to be a surreal state. That bandage around it, doesn't it? But for some reason, it feels slightly ominous to me. Like it's trying to shout a warning. Probably because it's the same blue as Mr. Gardy dressing gown. I suppose it must have a considerable sentimental value, Mr. Gary Deep. To Mr. Gary Deep. Given that he's one of the trouble of repairing it like this. Either that,
I can afford
to replace it.
Ok, quindi la pipa in sostanza non la fai ad esaminare se non per... Oh! E questo che cos'è?
Oh! Something just trickled inside the chamber of the pipe there. Yes, I saw it. Something stuck in there, I think.
Let's turn it over again and give it a shake.
What's this? It's a tiny fragment of metal. It looked just The tip of a blade or something. The tip of a blade? Surely it can't be. Vedi signori, vedi. Che plot twistone. There's a small nick out of the ball here, look. It appears to have been made relatively recently. And see how there are little scrapes and dents all over it. It's clearly a well-loved pipe. Yeah, you're right. It seems to me recently that being well-loved goes hand in hand with getting some battle scars. This particular nick is catching my ass though, because it's clearly new. Allora, signore e signori, eccolo qui. Proviamo un attimo ad aprire adesso a vedere cosa ci dirà mai il nostro caro coltello. Oh, look here, Mr. Naruto. Just as the tip. A small piece of blade appears to be missing. Wait, a part of it is missing? It could be wrong, but I just got a feeling. Remember this? Ah, that's a tiny fragment of metal that we found inside Mr. Gardib's pipe. Yeah, and just maybe. Oh my! It's a perfect fit. Somehow, I just knew it. Adesso esaminiamo questo. This is the tiny piece of metal we found in the chamber of Mrs. Gardib's fight. And what's a stroke of luck! That is just perfect fit with a broken tip of the jackknife. It's extraordinary, isn't it? And it fills me with a sense of I'm surely proof that miracles really can happen. Yeah, a more miraculous proof I couldn't ask for. Mamma mia, mi ero dimenticato di quel particolare. Oh no. Oh no, scusa, è Ryunose. Oh no, it's fine. Thanks to Sato-san, we have some new evidence to work with. We should examine it carefully. Well, thank you for that, rebuttal, Mr. Gardib. Now, if we could return to the crux of the matter, what can you tell us occur about the knife used to attack the victim? Plenty of knives around the place. Can't say I'd notice it of 1 or 2 missing, I'm afraid. Hold it! Sorry? Would you care to elaborate? Nothing to say, really. Rather a partial of a spot carving, you see, pipes and whatnot, fishing tackle. You know, the sort of thing. It's a passion we both share. I like to carve bottle wood and trinkets too. And then there's my leather work. Sorry to say we're always losing knives about the place, and we have dozens of the things. Yeah. The same. This. Ah no, è lui. Ah no, è Joan. È lei, sì. Some market sometimes 24. The price of 19. Needless to say, I snap them up. John prefers to use 2 knives at meal times 2 instead of a knife and fork. Good to know, John. Here we go again with the scalings. Why are they being so evasive? I imagine because they don't want to believe it. They can't The thought that that it might have been one of their knives that injured the victim, which is entirely underestimatable, of course, but still. Go on with your testimony, witnesses.
Yes, sir.
Sir. In that badly thinged victim's back, in the worst of the hours, you'll have to have a job proving it, I think. I'll it. So you have no intention of admitting it was your knife, unless we can introduce proof? Even though there is no other credible possibility, if Mr. Natsumi is innocent? No, you forget, my Nipponese friend. That is yet to be established that the accused is not responsible for the attack. As if I could forget. If there were only some way to know who handled the knife. But I suppose the wizardly like is just a dream. Perhaps you're thinking of fingerprinting, Mr. Naruhodo?
What? You mean it's not a dream?
That sort of wizardly really exists? Whenever people touch anything, they leave behind a unique pattern from their skin. Or so they say. But I can't see anything. There are already countries in the world where these so-called fingerprints can be used as evidence. Lord Strongant is currently discussing the matter at the Ministry of Justice. Yes, I believe we can rapidly approaching an era of scientific methods of investigation. But for now, we shall have to find an alternative method of proving our assertion.
Ah, Dio buono. Sono distrutto.
This knife found in the victim's bag was originally in Mr. and Miss Gary Deep's house. If only I could transplant this whole incident to several years in the future.
Beh, per quella aspetta Phoenix Wright, Dio buono.
What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo?
Well, I think we've heard all of this before, to be honest. I can't say I'm particularly confident that we'll be able to prove anything new from this testimony. But in this cross-examination is absolutely essential. That we establish how this knife came back to be in yes, I know. Puntini. I'm sure both of them be feeling worried. That is, in fact, a knife belonging to the one of them that caused the victim's injury. If we could find even a tiny shred of evidence to support that theory, it would cringe. This trial for us, it would explain everything. Yes, it would. So Soseki-san's sake, for Soseki-san's sake, so for Soseki-san's sake, Soseki-san's sake, we must find the last crucial piece of evidence. Via. Allora, let's go right here. Allora, proviamo a mostrare che noi abbiamo objection. Do. E io volevo provare a mostrargliene i curtella, ma un nenandonno. proviamo a mostrargliene qui. Magari qui c'è più senso. Oh, via. Era quello dopo, era quello dopo. Mr. Gary Deep, could I ask you to take a good look at this, please? You can ask, but I can't see about the thing. You can't? You used to call me Dead-Eye Dab back to the regiment of the curse, but that was some time ago now. Even when I'm trying to enjoy a large print book by the fire these days, I struggle a B from a D and a P from a Q, to be honest.
Oh, it does, dearie me.
It's rather wearing being asked about every other letter and every other word. You must very does. What is that? A tiny scrap of metal? Yes, almost certainly from the tip of a blade. And what may appear at first is in the fact a crucial piece of evidence. Interesting. And where did the fans come by this evidence? It was lodged in the chambers of Mr. Gardeeb's pipe. My pipe, you say? By Jove, I wonder how that got there.
And what precisely does
this fragment of metal signify, Counsel? Are you suggesting that it is in some way related to the matter of the stepping Briar Road? On Briar Road? Vabbè, questa è super easy, ragazzi. Poi la padella. I am. What? When put together with another piece of evidence that already in the court record, I believe this tiny fragment of metal will unravel the whole truth of this case, my lord. Lei è su un pancale, l'ho visto ora. We appear rather confident that in that extraordinary statement, Counsel. Very well then, present the pertinent evidence to the court. What evidence, when paired with this fragment of metal, allegedly reveals the truth of this entire case? Da dang! This knife that was found in the victim's back. You look closely, you will see as there is a small piece at the tip of a blade that is missing. A common issue with the inferior blades sold at unsavory street markets. Criminals who use them regularly leave the tips lodged in their victims' bones. Oh, ma questa è bellissima, questa voce di Van Zix.
And what on this particular knife?
No doubt it's a tape of suffered a similar fate, now languishing somewhere near the spine of the victim. No, that's not the case. The tip of this particular knife's blade is the very fragment metal we discovered in the chamber of Mr. Gardeeb's pipe. Good grief, Lord Van Zix! I don't believe it. The knife from the crime scene and this fragment metal are a perfect match.
Good collegas!
È una sega.
Order! Is this a sort of Eastern sorcery?
This is no magic, my lord. This is a miracle.
A miracle?
7-6 has figured it out, has he?
Counsel, explain this
Extraordinary coincidence at once. Yes, my lord. The crucial point have to ask ourselves here is when did the fragment of metal find its way inside Mr. Grip's pipe? Something was clarified for us in the most recent witness testimony.
Had this thing in my hand, as usual, had this thing in my hand, usually at the time of the onslaught. Knocked it to clean out what, with one verse of the projectile state. Yes, it would never be seen sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid.
Okay.
Dear me.
During the argument between these two, that occurred just as the victim was on the pavement below, Mr. Garrity flung this knife at her husband. However, the knife missed Mr. Garrity instead of striking the pipe in his hand at the time, which caused up the tip of break off, of course.
Good lord!
Yes. And that's when the tiny tip of the blade found its way inside Mr. Garrity's pipe.
The chances of that are a million to one.
And yet, there's no other credible explanation for how the tip of the blade ended up in your pipe. Then, after losing its tip, the knife ricocheted off the pipe and flew out of the open window. In short, this knife, which fell from the window of Mr. Garrity's house, is the very same knife that struck the victim in the middle of the back streets below.
Oh gosh. Oh dear.
Objection!
Plot twistone. All but a theory. I'll give you that. A complex bouquet of seemingly trivial points, plausibly arranged to create an almost passable vintage. Allow me to toast my learned friend, characteristically Nipponese approach to bottling this argument. Sorry? But after all, it's just a theory. The bottle, I fear, it's corked. Because you see, it's spoiled by an insurmountable inconsistency. As an inmonstrable what? Lord Van Six, explain yourself. What is this inconsistency you claim to have identified? An inconsistency of the simplest nature, my lord. The victim was found with a knife planted in the middle of her back. Yes, in her...
That's right. You silly little man.
No, John. Good. No, John, old thing. What are you getting so excited about? Let us consider the basic facts of the case once more. The victim was walking along the pavement before being stabbed in the back and falling on the ground. The knife That structure had fallen from above. Vabbè, ma è palese, cioè lui ha preso il... È cascato il libro, lei si è piegata per raccogliere il libro, e quando si è piegata per raccogliere il libro, le è cascato il coltello che le si è piantato nella schiena. There's no possible way it could have planted itself into the victim's back. Ghiag! E invece... Order.
Quite right, you see. That's exactly right. If the knife had fallen from her above,
Ah, sega.
it would have struck on the top of her head.
He's lost over. I knew it. I never liked this theory of the first place. I don't know though. What really did happen? It would appear that the fences made a rather spectacular blunder. If a theory has even one inconsistency, it cannot stand. Your theory, my learned friend, is history. Dai, fra. Non te arrende.
We're so close. We were so close. I could see the truth. I was so sure we were on the right track. But now the way has been blocked completely by just one simple inconsistency.
Or in other words, we simply need to eliminate that one inconsistency and the theory will stand. Mr. Soto, you mustn't worry, Mr. Naruhodo. We're just caught off guard, that's all. And your mind went blank. In realtà era tutto nero, però vabbè, non bianco. But if the path were, if the path you were on this indeed correct, will present itself. The key, it's in the court record, I'm sure. All the information you need is here. It seems you have nothing to say, my Nipponese friend. Well, your silence speaks volumes. A tacit acceptance that your theory is fatally flawed.
Objection!
This is... It means I need to sharpen my mind to dig deeper from the truth. It's a test. Yes. The knife fell on the victims from above. There's no way that could have hit her in the middle of her back. Under normal circumstances, that's it. What are you implying, counsel? There is a piece of evidence in the court record that can explain this inconsistency. That can explain how the knife that fell from above could have pierced the victim's back. We already have the answer.
Goodness.
Utter madness.
Surely it must be the last time.
Counsel, present the evidence of which you speak. This is the last inconsistency, the final piece in the puzzle. I can successfully make sense of this. The truth will be laid bare at last. The evidence that explained the falling knife can be lodged in the victim's back is... Allora, di sicuro non è questo. E nemmeno questo. Allora, io credo che sia il libro, ok? Perché il libro cosa ci dice? Ci dice che lei si è piegata. Piegandosi è cascato ogni bene. E cascando ogni bene, sdiridium, è cascato il coltello. Quindi proviamo con il libro. This, the fourth book, found in the scene, at the scene, is the final piece of evidence the defense will present. The burnt book.
Is that not Mr. Garadip's book?
Yes. And to understand its insignificance, we have to consider how it came to be at the scene in the first place. This photographic print clearly shows the book in question. The victim holding it in her hand. Oh, ce l'ho fatta, ragazzi. Boia. Non ci credo nemmeno io. But as we all know, it was the police constable that put the book between her fingers like that.
Quite so.
As a part of his wholesale transplanting of the crime scene to the opposite side of the... However, as part of his testimony, Constable made an extremely enlightening statement on that point. But what made you place the book in the victim's hand?
Oh, well, so that's because that's how I found it.
That's when first ran over the scene. The victim's already holding the book. So when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand. In other words, the victim had already picked up the book in her own volition. And clearly, that must have been before she suffered the knife wound.
Well, I should say so. But after being attacked with the knife, I didn't imagine she'd have been doing much of anything.
So the question becomes, why did the victim have that book in her hand?
By Jingo.
By Jingo. I think I'm being to say that many have happened now.
Oh dearie me.
We know that the book fell from the top floor of the Grady household onto the pavements below. At precisely the moment that the victim was walking past. Yes, at that moment. The young woman was walking along the street in the light fog. After when all of a sudden a book fell right in front of her.
The book I threw.
Yes, Miss Garrity. And what do you think the woman did? What would you do if you were walking along and suddenly a book landed in front of you on the pavement?
Well, I really can't imagine it, but I suppose she might have reached it down.
Ma non mi dire, Sherlock.
I picked the book up.
Yes! That's exactly what the woman did, in fact did. She picked up the book.
Oh heavens!
And when the woman reached down to pick the fallen book up, what position would her back have been in? That's right, facing the sky, completely and utterly defenseless. Then, in the very next moment, while the woman was still bent over picking up the book. Wow! The next object fell from her above, the jackknife straight into the middle of her back. And at the same time, walking by chance directly behind Miss Green was the defendant, Mr. Saseki Natsume.
Well, I never.
It appeared to Mr. Natsume that the woman simply collapsed on the floor. And in the dark and the fog, he didn't see the knife falling from her on her above. And another from the other direction. the constable and his wife, so no one but the victim and her apparent attacker.
So there never was the real culprit to run from the scene in its first place.
No, this was nothing more than a series of unlikely events that culminated with an unfortunate accident. And that is the real truth behind... Oh, mi stava partendo le cuffie. Behind the case. Well, Mr. and Miss Gary Dip?
The very first time you showed me the knife, I had my suspicions. I wonder if perhaps it might have been something like that.
There, old bean.
Poor Miss Gary Dip. Of course, I never meant of anything for anything of the sort to happen, but it was all my fault, wasn't it? I take full responsibility. I let my anger get the better of me, and I threw that book. And when I threw the knife as well. John, dear.
It's alright, I know.
I'm ever so sorry. Truly. I'm sorry. No.
Ce la fa, poverino. Beh, sì, ha senso. Ha senso.
Sono cascati. LOL.
Lord Von Six, what news of Miss Gary Dip? She had been taken to an infirmary. It would appear that today's events had left in her especially frustrated state. However, I believe she will recover in due course.
Che LOL. È divertente.
There is no cause for concern. Yes. Unbeknownst to themselves, they caused what could easily have been a terrible tragedy. They shall have to prepare themselves for consequences of their actions. There is some good news, however, my lord. I have just word from the hospital where the victim is being treated. Her condition is improving steadily, and the doctor believes she will regain consciousness soon. It's strange. We've been talking about victim and all this time, but we never once met her.
How wonderful. The woman is out of danger, it seems.
Yes, this is good news. So, Mr. Sasaki Natsume.
Eccolo, bellino.
Yes! On behalf of my fellow countrymen, I would like to take this opportunity to beg your pardon, sir. You came from your distant eastern homeland to study our great British culture, and have been repaid with immeasurable unkindness. Please accept our heartfelt apologies. No, it is me who should be begging your pardon. Oh no, Mr. Natsume. That evening, when the young woman just collapsed on the pavement before my eyes, I jumped to the wrong conclusion again, in my confusion. What conclusion, sir? I was sure that the woman was dead. Yes, Constable Beat said the same thing, didn't he? He thought she had been killed too. I suppose she must have been completely lifeless. It's been about a year since I arrived in Great Britain now, but I still can't get used to life here. I can't relax. I'm sure there are all evil spirits lurking in the fog, like they're hunting me. Poor Sasaki-san. His immigration really has got the better of him. Yes, poor man. So, when it happened, I thought the young woman had been killed by the fog spirits. I should never have dropped my books like that and run away. I should have called for help, for a doctor, for the police. Instead, I've managed to create a rift of the relationship, trust between our two empires. And for that, I am truly sorry. Puntini. One could indeed say some a mischievous spirit has been at the work here, I think. One that created a chain of unfortunate mishaps. We were befooled by the spirits and led to false conclusions. But thanks to Lorvan and our young lawyer here from the east, that chain has now been broken and the spirit exorcised. I heartily recommend you both. Oh! Now then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Yes, my lord. In concluding this trial, I must ask you one last time for your decision regarding the defendant's culpability. Are you ready to present your findings to the court? As the foreman of this jury, I can assure you we've reached a fair and just conclusion. I declare the truth can be extremely cruel at times. Well, I didn't suspect the woman next to me, that's for sure. So, certainly, in the whole main wish list, she's out of action, but you know, but non ho letto. But I know what her decision would be. Does it mean I've finally been able to get out of here and start work? Well, it's about time. I say I have a character of a story to tell the grandchildren when I get home, won't I? Very well, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. I hereby to demand your final decisions. Mr. Furman!
Guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Bellissimo. Ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-tam. Bang. Ah, che soddisfazione, Dio buono. Very well, Mr. Sasaki Natsume. I hereby pronounce you not guilty. Ah, ce l'abbiamo fatta. Sono distrutto. Ah, pure poi. Dove l'hanno tirai poi d'artificio?
And finally, Mr. Natsume. Oh, yes, Lord Sir. You're now a free man once more. It is my hope that you will continue to further your education in British culture. And may you never again be brought before me.
Oh, yes, sir, of course.
All my life, I'll swear I'll never get to set foot in a courtroom again. Transported to tears. Transported to tears. Ok. Bellissimo. Thank you, counsel. Court is adjourned. Oh, yes. Qualcosa di veramente pochissimo.
Oh, look!
Wait, you mean me?
Of course!
It's another Lockham here? Is there even one?
Compared to the original Lockham student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, your name has become rather short, hasn't it?
What's wrong with using my actual name?
Oh, at last, I'm free.
Oh no.
At last, I'm free. Joyful, joyous, jubilant, jubilation. Hearty happiness, hurrah!
Cringe.
Oh, I'm pleased. Mr. Natsume is delighted.
Would it be so hard just to say that then?
Like, you did it. You saved my life from the brink.
Well, what happened to the poor man was no way your fault after all. I'm just glad everyone can see that now.
No, not that! Lovely, loyal, Lockham lawyer.
Yes?
I mean, as I said before, I have just never got used to life in human Great Britain. Every time I look over my shoulders, I see foreigners, I see towering brick buildings, and from high up windows, I see them looking down on me, laughing. Look at the little hunchback. Oh dear, I'm sure it's all in your head, Mr. Natsume. But today, your Lockham lawyer gave me the gloom on the boot. You stood firm behind the British and Brats before the suspended British. You battered me dead, you like a very baffling truth. I was behind blazing fireworks among the briefs of the fire-fiery roof I blowed. Behold the best barrister ever born.
Well, that's very flattering, and we're very pleased for you.
This has given me a wonderful anecdote to recount my old friends back in Japan.
An anecdote? Is that what's to become all of my hard work? Ah, there you are, my dear fellows. Eccolo. I apologize for keeping you waiting. I rose late this morning.
Oh, Mr. Sholmes, what a pleasure to see you.
I see I am here not a moment too soon. A disaster have been averted, I'm glad to say. The trial shall begin presently, Mr. Naruhodo, and I wish you the very best luck. It's just finished.
What? No! Then my haste was in vain! Ah! It's you! Herlock Sholmes!
Ora raga non urlo più perché mi fa male la gola. Cioè, mi fa male la gola. Oh, have we met, sir?
This is Mr. Natsume, the man who you had arrested, Mr. Shams.
Oh, I see. I failed to recognize you at first. Our previous encounters have taken place in the gloom. Either you're back locked things on the prison's hell.
Allora metti il computer in carica perché gli hanno scarico. Cioè quasi scarico. Quindi si mette qui.
I simply couldn't place the curious face in the light.
Charming.
This is all your fault, Sherlock Holmes!
You're the reason I had to go through this terrible ordeal. I'm going to give you a piece of my mind.
I apologize, sir, but I assure you, I have placed you now. You're the fellow who abandoned the poor young lady and ran off, are you not? Had she been taken to the hospital more urgently? I feel perhaps she would never regain the consciousness by now.
Oh,
but it was unavoidable, I'm sure. We're but human after all. Anyone could have been shaken by such an experience. I do feel very badly about how I behaved. Well, never mind now then. What was that you wanted to say to me, sir? Sir?
nothing. Priceless. Oh, I'm sorry, really, but
that was quite priceless.
Poor Sasaki-san. Poverino.
Still, on the brink side, you've had an extremely entertaining experience without paying a penny. And it would seem you were not even found guilty.
But there is the bright side.
Whatever do you mean, Mr. Natsume?
Even after this, I'm still cursed by the spirits and
not by the Reaper! Ah, Lord Van Zix. Haven't I forgotten, you know? Facing that a man cursed means even you're found guilty, you're still doomed. It will be all right, Mr. Natsume. If the Reaper appears trying to make trouble, I will protect you. Hiya!
Ma perché lui?
What a perfectly excuse so subtle takedown. Much as I like being turned on my head a bit, a warning might be nice next time, Miss Susato.
Missus.
Dun, 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 dun. Mr. Natsume, what do you intend to do now? You mentioned something about recounting your experience to your friends back in Japan? Yes, I intend to return to my homeland soon. Oh. It has already been a year since I arrived here in Great Britain. I visited universities, libraries, bookshops. I've been honored with the tutelage of professors. I've learned so much about the wealth of literature here and the city in its shapes. And I've come to realize this is my calling to sail home and tell my fellow countrymen about it. It's very touching, Mr. Natsume. Or, in perhaps less veiled terms, you wish to withdraw halfway around the world to escape the terror of the Reap's curse? That's not it at all! The more I learn of literature, the more this strange feeling claws at my insides. I feel compelled to return to my roots and attempt to pen a work of my own. Oh, I see. A work of literature by Sasaki-san could be an interesting read. And what about Mr. Saturn yourself, Mr. Naruhodo? Sorry? What about us? Will you return to Japan alongside your mustached... Will you return to Japan alongside your mustached compatriot? Why would we? A week has not yet passed since we arrived in London. And only now does it feel as though we have finally found our feet. And are you accommodating in an hotel at present, are you not? That's right, but we need to find lodgings before it bankrupts us. I've calculated we can only afford 10 nights before our entire budget is exhausted. Well done! You could take my lodgings. Oh, the windowless room? But with the lights and windows, it's more than makes up. With a floor, a ceiling, and walls. Great. And of course, I'd be happy to leave behind the accursed evil pirates. Oh my, an evil pirate? Oh yes. It tries to suffocate while you're asleep. It's an infallible wake-up call. We'll think about it if that's all right. Perhaps I can offer a more welcome alternative. Would you consider taking lodgings with me? Oh, che figo! Si va a vivere da Holmes, ragazzi, che spettacolo. Really? Really? Well, a vacancy has conveniently presented itself. Though it is up in the attic, I might add. Are you sure it isn't just a storage loft? I spoke with the landlady this very morning on the matter of price, and Iris is cleaning the room as we speak. You must come at once. I presume you have no luggage to speak of. Oh, this is simply wonderful. What an honor to be invited to taking lodgings in the best detective office attic. I'm too overcome for words. So suggesting we look elsewhere out is then. Then it's settled. Iris will prepare a welcome dinner this evening. And you must come too, Mr. Natsume. I insist. I don't know what to say, but thank you. And yes. Wonderful. Then I'll go and complete the paperwork from your formal release, Mr. Natsume. And I shan't take long, I shan't. What? Somebody's happy. Look, I knew you wouldn't let me down. I'm truly delighted to have met you here in London. Likewise, Mr. Natsume. It's been a privilege to meeting you too. It's a shame we are doomed to say goodbye so soon. Well, I've come to realize that I belong to Japan. But luck, we'll meet again one day. Yes, I'm sure. And hopefully by then, I'll be a successful lawyer. Hopefully by then, I'll be a successful author. Well, my dear fellow, our carriage appears to have arrived. Shall we go, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, Mr. Sholmes. Bye. I have little doubt Mr. Natsume will be released in time for dinner this evening. Ed è finita. And so, with Saseki-san's innocence successfully established, we rode with Mr. Sholmes. We rode to Mr. Sholmes to what was to become our new home, 2020, 221B Baker Street. È finita? Non è finita! Dio buono, quanto dura! Dai! Che ore gli hanno? Non so nemmeno che ore sono. Boia, è dalle 2 che son qui. Ma che siamo grulli. Fra? Lattico. Fra, lattico. So this is... It's... to be our new office. Yes. Our office? I rather like the sound of that. Me too. It's simply wonderful, isn't it? I hope you can see this, Kazuma. It's only a small step, but I'd like to think we're getting a little closer to your dream now. So, my dear fellows, do you like the place? Eeeh! Com'è strano! Oh, Mr. Sholmes, yes, thank you so much. It's a delightful room, Mr. Sholmes. I simply adore it. Good. I'm pleased to hear that. Iris and I are delighted to welcome you.
I hope everything's hungry.
Oh, Dio mio.
It's nearly time of dinner. We'll eat as soon as Mr. Natsume arrives. We have a lot to celebrate.
Dio buono. Iris, you must let me help you.
All right then, Susie. You can be in charge of the salad.
Splendid. Bella rovina. So, Mr. Naruhodo, how does it feel? To have your own office at the Capitol. It's very exciting, actually. I can't help wondering what adventures await us. Those were precisely my sentiments when I first established my office at these premises. Until I discovered the dark truth about the city of London, that is... Sorry? London is a glorious place, full of wonder, opportunity, prosperity and mirth. But the brightest of lights casts the darkest of shadows. Shadows? What do you mean? Well, I believe you're well aware of the murkiness that lies behind London's facade already. So, once again, Mr. Naruhodo. Welcome to London! Interessante. Of course, at the time, I had no idea of the significance of those words Mr. Sholmes so casually spoke. But it wasn't long before my turn came to lift the facade and see the true depth of the mark that lay behind it. And è andata, è andata. Salviamo il progresso. Cioè, salviamolo qui. Allora, qua c'è The Great Departure. Oh no, è lui o non è lui? The Adventure of the Unspeakable Story. Ma ragazzi, oh, non ci credo nemmeno io in questo caso, che sembrava tipo impossibile da risolvere per colpa di quel punto. Da lì poi ho avuto tipo tutto, ma tipo tutto chiaro, quindi pog. La live di oggi termina adesso, cioè ora. Spero vi sia piaciuta, spero vi siano piaciute le mie urla, i miei strilli, il mio modo nuovo di portare le live, il mio nuovo modo di ammazzarmi, anche quello dovrebbe essere ganzissimo. Noi ci vediamo prossimamente con una nuova live, non so quando, ma inizieremo l'ultimo caso di The Great Ace Attorney Adventure, perché sì, quello stiamo giocando noi. Come potete vedergliene, vedete Great Ace Attorney Adventures e The Great Ace Attorney Resolve, ovvero il sequel. Chi ci avranno scritto? Oh no, Amogus. Comunque, tipo, vedi, cioè, tipo, questa roba qua è del 2015 e questa è del 2017, bella robina. Bene, l'episodio di oggi, cioè, la live di oggi finisce qui. Vi auguro un buon proseguimento di giornata. Mi raccomando, andate a fare funghi, che ora ha anche tempo. Come anche tempo di vendemmia. Ora non so che giorno è, che tempo è, no? È il 24 di settembre. Ma siamo giù di lì per la vendemmia. Buono, ci si becca nei campi di grano. Ci si becca come le galline. Buona cisi.